Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast.
Great to be here. Today, we're looking at a company that's really right in the thick of it in defense tech, RCAT Holdings.
Exactly. And the big question we keep getting from you, the listener, is pretty direct. Is RCAT Holdings a good time to buy now?
It's definitely top of mind for a lot of folks.
So before we jump into the numbers, the competition, all that good stuff, please do hit that subscribe button. Maybe give us a like if you find this helpful.
And definitely leave a comment below. We really do read them.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell us if there's another company you want us to break down like this. We're always looking for suggestions.
Okay, so our goal today is to really unpack what's going on with RCAT. We've got a pile of recent reports, market data, you name it.
We're aiming to sort of synthesize all that, right? Look at the financial weak spots, but also where they might have a real edge, especially with drones.
And crucially, what events are coming up soon that could, really move the needle on the stock price. It's a tricky one because you've got this super bullish analyst view clashing with some pretty tough fundamentals.
All right, let's set the scene first. RCAT Holdings. What's their main pitch?
Well, they position themselves as a key player in aerospace and defense. Their focus is really on advanced drone systems.
For who mainly? Military?
Yeah, military, government agencies, but also, interestingly, some larger commercial uses, too. They're trying to build a reputation on, unique tech and knowing how to operate these unmanned systems effectively.
Okay, so that operational know-how, that's sort of their competitive angle.
That seems to be the core of it, and it's what gets analysts excited. They're in a hot sector, no doubt. Drones are huge.
But I sense a but coming.
Yeah, there's always a but with these stories. The but is when you look at the recent financials. It paints a very different picture.
How different are we talking? You mentioned tough earlier.
Well, tough might be an understatement. Our sources show some really significant volatility. Revenue in 2024, for instance, dropped, wait for it, 59.21%.
Oof, 59%.
Yeah, it went from nearly $18 million, like $17.84 million, down to just $7.28 million. That's more than cut in half.
And the bottom line?
Yeah.
Profits. Or losses.
Definitely losses, big ones. The reports show a net income loss of around negative $65.42 million recently. They are burning through cash incredibly fast while sales are shrinking.
Okay, hang on. A $65 million loss, revenue collapsing. Normally, that's a massive red flag, right? Like, get out now territory.
You'd think so.
So why on earth are analysts slapping a strong buy rating on it? And talking about price targets of, what, $16?
It's a million-dollar question, isn't it? It's this massive paradox.
Are the analysts missing something? Or do they see something we don't, like a giant contract about to land?
I think it's the latter, mostly. They aren't looking at today's P&L. They're looking, maybe 2-3 years out.
The classic growth story projection.
Exactly. The consensus strong buy seems based on the belief that RCAT's specialized drone technology, particularly for defense applications, is going to win huge game-changing government deals.
So they're basically pricing in massive future growth, treating the current losses as just like the cost of getting there, R&D burn.
Pretty much. They see the competitive edge in the tech and are betting heavily that the company can execute and scale up massively. It's a high-wire act, for sure.
A very high-stakes bet on future performance over current reality.
And to be fair, RCAT is making moves that fuel that ambition. They've been very aggressive with financial engineering lately, which, of course, also adds its own layer of risk.
Tell us about that. These capital moves sound significant.
Oh, they are huge. Back in September 2025, they announced this major public offering, $172.5 million.
Wow.
And critically, they said that cash was specifically tagged to ramp up their unmanned vessel division. So not just drones, but marine systems too. A big diversification push.
Okay, $172.5 million is a lot. But there was more, wasn't there?
Yes. Then they filed a $300 million mixed security shelf.
All right, break that down. What does a mixed security shelf mean for someone holding the stock? Is that more dilution?
It could mean more dilution, absolutely. It basically gives RCAT permission to sell up to $300 million worth of various things, stock, warrants, debt, relatively quickly in the future without needing a separate filing each time.
So it's like pre-approval to raise more cash.
Kind of, yeah. The risk isn't immediate, it's the potential for significant dilution later on, especially given how much cash they're currently burning through. Investors see it and think, okay, they can fund growth, but also, uh-oh, my slice of the pie might get smaller. It definitely sparks debate.
Growth versus dilution. The eternal struggle. Okay, so they've raised a ton of money. Is it translating into actual product wins or momentum?
Well, that's the upside story the bulls cling to. The product side does have momentum. Like in October 2025, they partnered with SafePro,
What's that about?
integrating advanced AI into their Black Widow drones,
Mm-hmm.
really sharpening the focus on high-end security applications. Plus, they rolled out a whole new line called FANG drones.
Fang drones. Sounds aggressive.
Yeah, it's seen as a serious play for leadership in like integrated unmanned systems, drones working together, that kind of thing.
Are these actually selling? Or is it just press releases?
There are signs of traction.
Yeah.
Even with the overall revenue dip, they did secure an $800,000 deal recently with a company called Unusual Machines. It suggests the market is starting to buy into these newer, more advanced systems.
Okay, so a mixed bag then. Huge fundraising, new products, getting some traction, but still those big losses and falling revenue overall.
Precisely. And then you layer on the market signals, which are also kind of conflicting.
How so? We mentioned the bullish analysts already.
Right. You had Needham starting coverage with a buy rating and a $17 target, which definitely popped the stock. I think it was up over 15% on that news. Northland Securities also set a $16 target. Ladenburg upgraded to strong buy.
Yeah.
Very positive on that front. And then you look at insider activity. People inside the company.
Always revealing. What are they doing? Buying or selling?
Selling. While analysts are upgrading and institutions might be buying, insiders have been trimming their positions. For example, director Christopher R. Moe sold 10,000 shares.
Just one guy.
No, it was part of a broader trend. Over a recent quarter, insiders collectively sold about 86,833 shares. That's worth, what, around $861,560?
So the people who arguably know the most are taking some money off the table while the share price is climbing on analyst upgrades.
Exactly. It suggests maybe some portfolio rebalancing, or perhaps they feel the valuation got a bit ahead of itself. It definitely adds another layer of complexity.
And as if that wasn't enough complexity, there's a legal issue now, too.
Yeah, this is essentially quite serious. A law firm, Bregar, Eagle and Squire, has started investigations.
Into what specifically?
Into whether the company made potentially misleading statements about its production capacity.
Ooh, that's critical, because the whole bull case relies on them being able to deliver on massive contracts, right?
Precisely. If they've overstated their ability to actually build these drones in large quantities, it could completely undermine investor confidence. Forget future contracts. It could impact current ones, too. It casts a legal shadow over everything.
So let me get this straight. The market's giving them hundreds of millions to expand into new areas like marine vessels.
Right.
While a law firm is investigating if they can even handle the production they supposedly already have for their core drone business.
That's the core tension right there. Ambition versus execution, with a legal question mark hanging over the execution part. It sums up the whole investment puzzle.
Okay, given all that volatility and uncertainty, how does the stock look from a technical trading perspective?
Well, technically speaking, it's definitely volatile, no surprise there. But interestingly, it has been showing a rising short-term trend recently. Momentum traders seem to be playing in this name.
Are there key price levels traders should be watching on the chart?
Yeah, looking at the charts, resistance seems to be forming around the $10.11 mark. It might struggle to push past that without some really strong news.
And support. Where's the floor?
Support looks to be around $8.35, so that's the range folks are watching. What's also interesting is the RSI, the Relative Strength Index.
Is that telling us overbought, oversold?
Neither, actually. It's pretty neutral, around 43.24. That means technically there's room for it to run higher if the news flow turns positive. It's not currently stretched in either direction.
And what about those analyst price targets? Where do they see this volatile stock heading in the, say, next few months?
Based on the consensus, the forecasts suggest a potential move towards $13.57 by mid-November 2025.
Mid-November. That timing sounds important.
It is. It lines up almost perfectly with what might be the biggest catalyst on the horizon, their next earnings report.
Okay, let's focus on those catalysts. What specific dates or events should listeners circle on their calendars for the next, say, 3 months?
The absolute number one date is November 14th, 2025. That's when they're expected to release their Q3 earnings.
Why is that one so crucial? More than usual.
Because it's the first major financial update after that huge $172.5 million offering. Management has to show that the cash burn is slowing down, or at least stabilizing, and that the product momentum is starting to translate into real, substantial contract revenue. It's put up or shut up time, basically.
Got it. Q3 earnings, November 14th. Anything else besides company news? Maybe broader market stuff?
Definitely. Institutional flows can really impact stocks like this. Keep an eye on November 27th, 2025.
What happens then?
Potential ETF rebalancing. Think about funds focused on defense tech, maybe indexes like the Russell or sector funds like pure funds. If RedCat gets added or its weighting increases, that forces institutional buying.
Ah, index inclusion. That can be a powerful driver.
It can. And then looking a bit further out, maybe around January 5th, 2026, that's often when you see big institutions doing their year-end window dressing or allocating new capital for the year. So potential for buying then, too.
Okay, so earnings, potential ETF moves, typical institutional flows. What about rumors? Speculation. What's the buzz that could really ignite this thing, regardless of the fundamentals for a bit?
The rumor mill. Always churning. The big one, the most exciting one for shareholders, is persistent chatter about a potential acquisition
By who?
by a much larger Tier 1 defense contractor, someone like a Lockheed or Northrop Grumman, though no specific names are usually floated reliably. Given RedCat's niche drone IP, they are an attractive bolt-on acquisition for a giant. That would likely mean a huge immediate premium.
That's the dream scenario for many investors.
Yeah.
Any other speculation swirling?
Yeah, there's also buzz linking back to their products, talk that RedCat might be bidding on a major international defense contract, maybe a big European military drone program, something like that. Winning something overseas would be massive validation.
And tying back to that big capital raise.
Exactly. The third big piece of speculation is that the $172 million isn't just for dipping their toes in marine vessels, but for a rapid, aggressive expansion into autonomous ships and underwater drones, opening up a whole new, potentially enormous market that analysts are probably already trying to factor into those high price targets.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. We've got a company with, what seems like a real competitive edge in a growing market.
Definitely. The drone tech seems cutting edge.
They've got ambitious plans, massive funding injections, and analysts are overwhelmingly positive.
Yep, the bulls are out in force.
But it's weighed down by really significant operating losses. Insiders are selling shares. And there's this looming legal question mark over their production capabilities.
A potent cocktail of pros and cons.
So pulling it all together, what's the final take, the synthesis here?
Well, looking at all the sources, the overall feeling remains quite bullish, actually. Maybe like an 8 out of 10 on a bullish scale.
An 8 out of 10, despite the risks.
Despite the risks. The thinking seems to be that the potential reward outweighs them. The stock seems potentially suitable for two types of players.
Which are?
Short-term traders looking to play those upcoming catalysts, especially that November earnings report, and also maybe long-term investors who really believe in the drone and unmanned systems story and think RedCat can become a dominant player over time.
But you wouldn't recommend it without a strong warning label, right?
Absolutely not. Caution is paramount here. That huge net loss is a serious issue. The cash burn needs to be addressed. And that legal uncertainty about production capacity, that's a wild card that adds significant unpredictable volatility. This is definitely not a stock for nervous investors.
Right. So here's a final thought we want to leave you with, something to chew on based on everything you've discussed.
Go for it.
If you connect the dots between that huge recent capital raising the $172 million offering, the $300 million shelf, and the simultaneous legal investigation into their production capacity, what does that juxtaposition tell you about the calculation the market is making right now? This tension between massive ambition and the ability to actually execute. And crucially, how might that tension play out in the stock price heading into that critical November 14th earnings report?
That's the core question, isn't it? Resolving that tension ambition versus execution reality is probably the single biggest factor that will determine if RedCat Holdings soars or if it becomes, a cautionary tale about raising too much money too fast.
A lot to think about there. Thanks for breaking it all down.
My pleasure. Always interesting stuff.
And thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next Investing Talk podcast.